Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty big news going on all throughout today, where we're now seeing massive worker strikes for the video game industry, where one of the biggest producers and makers of video games has actually now just done awful things, blamed the employees, and basically everyone who is working on these games, they're just done. They're out. They're quite literally rioting to go and basically protest against all this type of stuff. They're going to try their best to go plan over a strike, and there's just a lot of big stuff coming out. So we're going to talk about this, talk about what's going on, and people are not happy with this. And I kind of don't blame them at the end of the day. So we have some big news that's been going on all throughout today, so let's go and talk about it. As well, if you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the How link down below. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. We have the Target links. We have Amazon links and everything all in between. So make sure you guys go and check those on out. All linked down below. And let's dive into one of the biggest things probably we'll be reporting on throughout this week. So today's just not been a good day, I think, for big figureheads in the gaming industry. First of all, we saw Microsoft and Xbox going and laying off a lot of employees. If you guys missed that video, go and check that on out. We saw some good news with the government basically making brand new press and takeaways and trying to stop gambling, and also make so like there's more restrictions on games themselves, like in a good way, not the bad way. That's great. But right now, one of the biggest game publishers and makers now, besides Sony or Xbox, Ubisoft, is in the news for everything not good. There's a few different things. So number one, Ubisoft workers are planning a strike. So we're going to talk about this really quickly over here, but give you guys the pre-context first. Basically, Ubisoft workers are not happy, and mainly because this is throughout this week. We saw that Ubisoft canceled and delayed games, and the big kicker for this, because they were not what gamers want, say employees report. And part two is that the employer, basically the CEO, I believe, also blamed them, which we'll get to in the story. So as the current Ubisoft employees have provided more insight as to why the company announced last week that it canceled 3 games and delayed even more. Because there's a lot of games that were getting canceled, a lot of games in the works, and some of the games that were expected to be coming out sooner rather than later are now getting delayed even farther, same with betas and stuff like that. And they basically claim that the reason behind these decisions were mainly due to the games being not what gamers wanted during QA and playtesting, while other games in production just needed more polish. So that kind of would make sense, at least on the bare bones. We'll get to more drama in a second. But the big thing to note is that a lot of these people are losing a lot of money in terms of Ubisoft, because if no one's buying the games or enjoying the games, or as well, if they get bad PR, they just also wasted months, if not years of time making video games. I mean, obviously the employees are hopefully still getting paid, but it's still a big struggle. So as apparently Ubisoft had over a dozen Battle Royale games in production. So some anonymous sources were saying 5 Ubisoft employees shared on how the company was going to move forward while it plans $200 million in cost reductions, as revealed at the company's press conference on January 11th. One employee said that Ubisoft is planning some of the blame on the advent of remote work during the midst of the COVID pandemic, and consequently, it plans to remove remote work entirely over the coming year. So that's another reason why these employees are upset, which we'll get to in a second. Another said that Ubisoft places too much emphasis on BR games, which is true. That genre is still popular, although it's not as big as a per reason, saying that the company had spread itself too thin, producing at one point over a dozen titles in already a saturated genre. So if they all went through, that would have been an Ubisoft game competing with another Ubisoft game. Though some of the various was the progress was various throughout all these things. Although Ubisoft did confirm in an internal company-wide email that Skull and Bones, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora would all be releasing in fiscal year 2024 as well, so the next year or so, and Division of Resurgence and Rainbow Six Mobile, along with other unannounced projects, will also be released at the same time period. So you guys can kind of see things are not going so good. Like Ubisoft's not making so much money, it's going mediocre, and this is why now Ubisoft workers are planning to strike over the CEO's email about dismal losses. So you guys kind of heard hey, they want to cut cost, they're trying to go turn things down and kind of make it a little bit better for employees. But with this, it goes to show that they're kind of deflecting the blame on the wrong people. So workers at Ubisoft, the company behind the games like Just Dance and Assassin's Creed, plan to go on strike next week after CEO Yves Guillemot emailed them about dismal financial results, saying the ball is in your court to deliver. Basically, that's awful to go in here. It's blaming basically the employees. In a January 11th email viewed by the Washington Post, Guillemot wrote that the company expects a 10% revenue decrease this year and a loss of over $500 million or euros. I need your full energy and commitment to ensure that we get back on the path of success, he wrote, and as that employees work even harder and watch their spending. So first and foremost, Sure, I can understand the idea of like you're a CEO. You want to make sure your company's doing good. You want to make sure you're turning profits. You don't want people that are being lazy at work. That happens. But at the same time, it just basically seems like they're putting all the pressure on these Ubisoft employees when as the CEO and all the upper management really need to go and step up and make sure everything is happening, going good, and people have the support they need, at least how my take is. Employees at Ubisoft Paris intend to strike on January 27th for half a day to protest the remarks. They should just do the entire day and say whatever and make an actual commitment. Ubisoft is one of the largest publishers in the video game industry, best known for its Assassin's Creed and Far Cry series. Ubisoft, alongside several other major gaming publishers, has been at the heart of seismic change in the industry over the past several years, including a reckoning around workplace misconduct, a problem that company's leader insists has probably been dealt with. But I'm not really sure, because you have your own employees right now planning on literally rioting and literally, keep on saying rioting, literally like striking, hopefully not rioting, when it comes to that stuff, and trying their best to like go protest this, because they don't want to be blamed. If anything, they need to make sure the managers, team leaders, etc., QA, and also maybe the game people pitching the games and decide what games are being made should maybe also take some blame. Because if you literally had like 12 BR games in the works, that's not really an employee problem if people aren't enjoying it or if they're like just mediocre at the end of the day. That's more of the leader itself, or even sometimes a CEO has to kind of go and step up as well. Guillemot's email noted that Ubisoft had already canceled 7 games since last July to limit risks. Workers took issue with how Guillemot attributed to disappointing news to employees needing to deliver at a higher level of quality. Now, some of his language could be taken to imply future layoffs, salary cuts, and studio closures. It's kind of like you get this whole situation over here. It's not like you don't want to hear this from your boss. You don't want to hear this from someone in the first place, because at the end of the day, it's not fun. No one wants to deal with this. No one wants to have like the looming future cutoff because your company's not making money, or you have to work harder for the same pay. Like at some point, I'm sure someone's working even extra hours than they even need to in the first place, and they don't want to see this. People were angry at Guillemot's email, which both asked people to work more while cutting the teams and offered nothing in exchange. So it's kind of like you see this email and you go and hear your CEO being like, hey, like we might have to go and cut Jim, get him out of here, but you also might have to go and step up and do your job and Jim's job and also to high performance because our company's not making money. I think people are kind of rightfully so, and just doesn't seem like a good morale booster when it comes to your company, said Mark Rush, a senior game designer and union representative at Ubisoft Paris, who added that employees were not responsible for Ubisoft losing money from investing in non-fungible tokens or the now defunct Battle Royale game Hyperscape, which foundered an oversaturated market. And that is a big thing too. It's like if these big higher ups are calling for NFTs, they're calling for crypto, and calling for these other things to be involved in the games, guess what? Like the employees, it's not their fault if they implement it. If also Ubisoft doesn't listen to the community, that really isn't the actual employee's fault. They're just trying their best to go to work, make sure everything's going good, and get their paycheck, and hopefully not be bad at their job. Guillemot uses words like organizational adjustments, which I'd probably say would probably mean layoffs or you're potentially losing your job, which once again does not instill confidence. Rush is part of the Soldieries Information trade union at the French workers as well, and they're going to be striking. Guillemot offered his employees an apology during a QA on Wednesday. I heard your feedback, and I'm sorry this was perceived that way, the executive told employees, according to gaming news outlet Kotaku. When saying the ball's in your court to deliver our lineup on time and expected level of quality, want to convey the idea that more than ever, I need your talent and energy to make it happen. This is a collective journey that starts, of course, with myself and with the leadership team to create the conditions for all of us to succeed together. Now, obviously, when you go and hear that after hearing a pretty kind of rude email originally, and you have to sit on it for a few days and have to worry about potentially losing your job, that obviously did not do so well when it came to the attendees too. So people are not happy with it. So pretty much anyone from the Ubisoft Paris, if they're seeing this or you guys are curious about the story, they will be able to go and strike. It's planned for 2 to 6 p.m. in Paris so that it doesn't disrupt game production, which is also very wholesome too as well. I probably would have did like an entire day or like a whole week until they actually go and kind of saw our things, but I'm also a bit more hardcore than they might be. Workers are demanding Ubisoft increase salaries by 10% to adjust for inflation, and also setting Tencent's $300 million investment in the company last September. And they're also asking for 4-day work weeks too, which some other gaming studios have implemented to improve work-life balance. So I want to hear your thoughts, because this is kind of a big story. Ubisoft is up there in like the top 10 gaming companies and publishers as is, and this is kind of big. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream as well. We have the Target links. We have the Amazon links. We have everything all in between. And we'll have a lot more videos all throughout tomorrow.